Hello, this is Barnacle Builder Trader. We're going to take a quick look at the markets, but first, trading futures, options on futures, and retail off-exchange foreign currency transactions involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your circumstances, knowledge, and financial resources. You may lose all or more of your initial investment. Opinions, market data, and recommendations are subject to change at any time. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Okay, let's take a look at the markets. This is the ES monthly chart. As you can see, we broke down out of this 2-month balance. You could call this whole area balance. And what we did is we peaked outside of this this balance area and then came back within. Usually when you peak out and re-enter balance, your target is the opposite side of balance. So we'll see what the market can come up with. On the weekly, we were one time framing down, 1, 2, 3. We stopped one time framing down. We left 2 pretty good buying tails. Wasn't on a whole lot of volume there. So we're in balance on both the monthly and the weekly. We are one time framing lower on the monthly. This is a larger balance area. You could call this negative to neutral. You could call this negative to neutral. And there is a positive note here, is that this week's bar, it broke out of last week's bar, the previous week's bar, pretty handily. On the daily, you can see that we were in balance here for several days, and we I think I was kind of looking at this area. I was kind of looking at this area to see if we could break out, and we kind of broke out, but went right back in. Tried to break out, went right back in, left a little bit of a tail here. This balance. So every time we came up here, they were pushing it down. So this may be a little bit of a short covering. But when you look at the way that the day kind of turned out, I'm not so sure of that. So you can see that we had this area of balance here, and we opened and tested just very little, and then drove. We just drove north. This started to look like that this was short covering here, but then it just kept going. This is the other time frame. This is a longer time frame buying this up. You can see it's a double distribution. So on Monday, when we trade this, we're going to try to find out where this opens up. If we open up in this distribution, we're going to, play it from here on up. Let me just put a line in there. So of course we're going to look at the day high, and we're going to look at this distribution here. It may, I would guess that it's going to test lower. It's going to test this low volume node here, and if the longer term buyers are still in there, it's going to keep going. There was no real pullback on this. So if people wanted to jump on, they really didn't have a chance. There was no, pullback. So this could continue to go higher. Let me see what this looks like on the 5-minute. So this slow and steady, just slow grind up, to me that seems like that was a longer term money pushing that up. So if we open, we're going to see if we can test this low volume node, and then with any test, they're trying to see. You could also say that this is the low volume node here. This is probably more of the support and resistance right here. So if it comes down here and like just rejects, then you can expect, then I would expect that it would break the high. If it comes down here and just bounces around, then you think that it's getting acceptance down here, and it may go lower, and it may only go lower to test this point of control. Again, we have this high volume node here. We've been in balance these several days, so it may want to come all the way down here and test the top of this balance before it takes off. That's if it wants to take off from here. Now, if you take it from this initiative move down to here, the half back would be right here at 1939.11. So you could find resistance here. If you take the move from the top here all the way down, then the midway point would be 1957. So you could find some resistance up in here. After that, you have a balance area up here. It could test the bottom of that balance area and turn around. So we don't know if it's going to come up here, test, and break to new lows, or come up here, test, pull back, and go higher. We don't know that, but so we're just going to play these areas as they come up. So on crude, on the monthly, we've been one time framing lower. We broke down out of this balance here, and this is you could call this the maybe the bottom of this balance. So this bar here, you see that it had a good volume, left a buying tail here on the monthly. So we're negative, but this buying tail just kind of tells you to be careful on the short side. Again, on the weekly, we actually had a reversal bar down here. We were one time framing lower. We stopped one time framing lower. Both of these bars have a kind of like a buying tail to it. We had a lot of volume on this bar. Didn't really make a whole lot of progress heading north. So, this may be wearing out. So you can see what we're aiming for. We're aiming for this 37, 38 area. This little you could say from there to there. Will be interesting to see. Well, you can see that we pierced this, and we couldn't close within it. So that's a little bit weak in my opinion. Let's see what it looks like on the day. Okay, when I saw this day here, I thought that we would be going lower. We had this balance area here. We broke out. We gapped open. We tested it into this area here, and we kind of reversed down. We left a selling tail, and I thought for sure that we were heading lower. Let's look at this day here. So you can see the balance that we had here. We gapped open. We gapped open. We shot higher into that area, and left a big tail. We couldn't push it lower. Couldn't push it lower. So I thought this day here that it was definitely going to go lower. And in fact, it opened here, it tested back up to this line, and I thought that was a pretty good short, but it didn't. It only got down to the previous day's low. It didn't continue lower. I thought it was going to do one of these numbers. It didn't. This looked like a pretty good rejection bar, actually. So once I saw that, it was like, well, you got to be careful. So we're in a 2-day balance right now. We were in a four-day balance here. Value has moved higher. We're now in a 2-day balance here. We have a pretty good point of control through here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if we can't get through this 34-40 area and spend some time up here. Then the bulls are eventually going to give up, and it may come back down and test this area through here. Let's see what that looks like on a 5-minute. So we actually have a pretty good amount of volume up here. So it may be hard to get away from this area. So I would not be surprised if we attempted to go higher, and if we can't spend some time up in this area above 3440, if we can't spend time above there, we may come all the way back down to 3072, and that that not necessarily in one day, but eventually. So we have a nice little balance area up here, 2-day balance. This is the low of the balance. This is the high of the balance. This lower balance down here, you could say that this is the high of the balance, and this is the low of the balance. So can it keep its inertia? Maybe test lower and then go higher, or it's going to, 3 scenarios. It's either going to continue to balance in here, it's going to test lower and go higher, or it's going to test higher and go lower. So just watch it and let it tell you what it wants to do. So I hope that helps. Have a good week.